Hey guys. Remnant from the Ashes is a game I really enjoy. Its combat is fast, fun, and fluid, with a satisfying gameplay loop and near endless replayability. I always seem to find myself coming back to it, but that got me thinking. How can I play this game differently this time? Is there a way for me to play this game, maybe while omitting all the things that I enjoy about it? And then it hit me, like a brick to the head. If I love the shooting in this game, what if I shot nothing at all? What if I, like so many major world governments, decided to offshore all my violence to someone else? So here I am, to answer the question, can you beat Remnant from the Ashes as a pacifist? So the rules here are pretty simple. I'm not allowed to deal direct damage to any enemies during this playthrough. All damage must be dealt by my animal friends, who I summon using the game's mod system. Additionally, in the event that I need assistance of other players, they must also abide by the rules of the challenge when playing with this pacifist character. This is so that I don't just summon teammates and make them shoot everything, as that would defeat the purpose of the challenge. Also, we plan hard. We're not pee-pee piss babies on normal, but we're not psychos either. After skipping the tutorial and selecting the ex-cultist as our class, we are now set loose in the world of Remnant. Society has crumbled. Humanity is on the brink of extinction, under siege by an interdimensional evil hive mind known as the Root, who seek to assimilate or destroy all life in the multiverse. Our hero is tasked to find some other guy who can maybe stop the Root. And setting forth, we realize, you know what? I know these guys are sadistic hell beings who want to wipe out my entire species, but I don't have it in me to hurt them. I don't want to stoop to their level. So how do we deal damage? With friends. If you don't know, Remnant has several summons that can be activated with mods, but these mods are typically charged by dealing damage to enemies. So what then? That's why we took the cultist set, as its set bonus not only increases the duration of summons by 100%, but it also grants a slow passive regeneration of our mods across the board. Additionally, there is a dog that you can pet halfway through the game, who grants the player a dog summon account-wide, meaning every character that I start with will come with this guy. Without the cultist set and without Very Good Boy, this run would probably be impossible. So we set off into the city to find a lead on Ford's whereabouts, emerging from his underground hideout like a redditor in a power outage. And I go about my usual Remnant business, getting the Ward 13 key card, smashing the bookcase, and getting the Drifter's armor, which was a mistake, I'll explain later, and we encounter our first enemies. So our only form of damage comes from a slow charge, but with the dog lax in availability, it makes up for in damage potential. Fido over here can two-shot standard Root Devils, who are way more focused on killing me than the dog. So the dog's well-being is not a concern, for now. The dog can also get headshots, but this is extremely inconsistent and impossible for me to control. But needless to say, the dog's damage output is pretty exceptional for this early in the game, but that's not all. Very Good Boy has one of the longest cast times in the game, which is only bolstered by the cultist set bonus. So not only can this dog deal a lot of damage, but it can also stay in for long periods of time, more than enough for me to charge up another cast. The only problems are that the dog can take damage and die, leaving me with no way of attacking. And it only deals melee damage, so flying enemies are his ultimate weakness. But I'm sure that won't be a problem later. No, he also whiffs a lot. It's pretty funny, but it's also like really annoying, but whatever. So we explore the city, taking on more Root Devils, Slayers, and Hulks, and picking up any goodies along the way until we finally reach our first dungeon, the Hidden Sanctum. This dungeon poses our first major issue. The dog has quite a bit of trouble hitting the enemies here. The hollows are short and can dodge his attacks, and the root warts explode when killed, which can hurt the dog, ending his summon prematurely. As a result, I clinked my brain cells together like a caveman making fire with rocks, and I came up with a glorious plan to treat this sewer like I treat college, running through as fast as I can while ignoring everything around me. You know, it's like Sun Tzu once said, if your funny little guys can't hit the thing, fucking run away, bitch. So that's what I did. But also because the dog wanted to make things harder for me, he kept smashing the root shrines which summoned Shroud, who really wanted to kick my ass, much like everything else in the sewer. In this dungeon, I did manage to acquire Aggressor's Bane, a ring that decreases damage taken by 15% in exchange for enemies being more likely to notice you, which was a staple of my early game, as prioritizing defense was the current main strategy of my build. But in the interest of not being a total coward, upon reaching the exit to the dungeon, I hung back and kited the hollows around like a pro zombies player as the dog slowly whittled them down. And as soon as the coast was clear, we pressed onwards. This took us to the Tainted Well, where we encountered our first boss, Shroud. Not gonna lie, I was worried about Shroud. This boss teleports extremely frequently, while ganking the player with arrow volleys and airstrikes, both attacks dealing lots of damage if every projectile connects. Additionally, the arena is constantly filling with root devils. This is to keep normal players topped off on ammo, but we are not normal players! Suffice to say, I was worried about the dog being unable to target the correct enemy, or constantly being halted by his target teleporting away, or even hurting him. I thought that maybe we'd be in the long haul at the best, or that this would be literally impossible at worst. But through this boss, we learn of important behavior in the dog's AI. When summoned, the dog will attack the closest enemy to it, and continue to target that enemy until it is dead or too far away to attack. As such, the strategy for this boss was to rotate around the arena, staying mobile to avoid any projectiles, while sometimes going close to summon the dog. Additionally, I found that staying aggressive around Shroud causes him to teleport shorter distances than if you were running away. Shorter teleports means the dog doesn't have to travel as far to deal more damage, so more DPS. This boss was a bit of a slog, but it taught me some valuable information about the homie, and so proved the run's viability. After defeating Shroud, I remembered that there were emotes in the game, and moved ahead to find an old wrecked helicopter with an old man named Mudtooth. Mudtooth doesn't have something we need, but something we'd like. Skipping through his stories like a heartless grandchild nets us the Pocket Watch, an amulet that gives us more stamina and less stamina consumption, which means we can spam more rolls. And yes, I totally skipped through all of his stories. Rest in peace, Crazy Ape. Mud dogs deserve better. Something, eat or no! We go back to the basics, exploring the city, and now pumping every trait point into Invoker to maximize the dog's damage. This goes on until we find Junktown, a small human settlement with a very charming fellow inside. He can sell us stuff, but I don't really care. After relentlessly insulting him, he pulled the shotgun on me, so I attempted to respond in kind, but my dog seemed like it was getting stage fright, as it refused to attack the merchant and only got whiffs, even though he was spraying blood. This could be because the merchant isn't classified as an enemy when you enter this area, but that's a very baseless assumption, so whatever. But in realizing that I've met my match, we got out of there, and it's not that bad. All we really would have gotten from killing him would be the Twisted Mask, which would have allowed us to get a not useful trait from the Wailing trait, so it doesn't really matter that much. So we continue on the usual gambit of exploring the city. After a while, we find our next dungeon, the New York City subway system. And not gonna lie, everything's looking pretty normal. We also go back to Ward 13 to upgrade our gear. We also use the Shadewood that we got from Shroud to redeem Rattleweed, another summon that, for all intents and purposes, is completely useless and instantly outclassed by just about every other option that we have and can get, as it is the only summon that cannot deal damage. Rather, it distracts, but you should be distracting anyway. So, Z tier. I also make the critical error of upgrading my Drifter's overcoat and Drifter's boots instead of the cultist armor. That was the mistake I made. Who cares? Chapel Station seems like more of the same, but it does introduce some new challenges. For one, this is the first time we encounter Flame Devils, enemies who explode into a fiery rage when shot, but the dog's melee attacks ensure that this is not really an issue, making them easy Luminite farms. In addition, Chapel Station is where we start to get overrun with enemies, as they spawn in groups in this dungeon, with the dog really just not fast enough to kill everything without me spamming rolls to deal with all the projectiles and attacks. Really though, these dicey encounters can be handled with smart play. I also started getting the idea to aim at oncoming enemies to get them to dodge, and therefore attack less, but realistically the strat wasn't all that useful in the long run, so I kind of just stopped. Here we also get introduced to the Stalker, an enemy whose flicker abilities and teleporting proved to be a difficult challenge, but not an insurmountable one. We also have to deal with an enemy known as the Howler. The Howler spawns more enemies. That's his whole thing. This led to a kind of standoff, where the dog kept killing the Howler's minions, never killing the Howler because it always teleported away soon after the dog wants to kill it. Let me tell you, it was a real fucking ordeal to deal with this Howler. Definitely one of the more annoying enemies, and it shows one of the major weaknesses of this build, that being targeting. Sometimes the dog cannot target who he has to kill, and therefore ends up wasting everybody's time. After trudging through the rest of Chapel Station, we come across the Church of the Harbinger. Inside is the Root Mother, a vessel of connection between humanity and its greatest apocalyptic threat. And she would like to hang out with us. Why? I mean, do you care? She upgrades your Estus flasks and shit, so who fucking cares? Unfortunately though, the rest of the Root gets jealous that we're hanging out with their mom and not them, so they decide to crash the church party. We have to defend the Root Mother for 2 minutes while she prepares snacks for the journey ahead. Easier said than done when you're ideologically opposed to self-defense, let alone defending another person. Fortunately for us, however, the dog is not the only thing that we can use. As a pacifist, we can use our intrinsic green aura to heal the Root Mother very slowly, allowing us to shave off any damage she may take. The strategy here is to let the dog work, while tanking as many hits as possible for this nice old lady. And I gotta admit, I did die here, because this specific survival section gets really hectic with all the enemies spawning and the null amounts of space they give you for cover and maneuvering. But it's only a minor setback, a 2-minute time loss in the pacifist percent speedrun. Really, all we need to do is play smarter, use our Mender's aura a bit more sparingly, and get a little more lucky with the dog. And so, on our second try, the Root Mother is free of her eldritch shackles. We grab all our loot, like a little rat, and tell the Root Mother to fuck off back to Ward 13, which means that it's back to the regular, except this time we're introduced to the Shrikes, plant people with guns, which means that we, have to take cover now, so, oh shit. Whatever. We press onwards until we find the next dungeon, Tangled Pass. The Tangled Pass seems like more of the same, but don't be confused. It is. It's a lot of running, and dodging, and praying, but really sprinting past all the danger like a feral possum hasn't really failed us yet, and I won't argue with the results. We grab some more useless loot, and more importantly, grab our first Estus shard. Golden Seed. Damn it! Simulacrum. Fucking goddamn. We survive by the skin of our teeth, and finally make it to the boss, the Mangler. Welcome to the first long-form boss fight. The Mangler is a tumbleweed-looking motherfucker, and a short one at that, meaning our beloved dog, our only form of damage, is wildly inconsistent in getting hits. And it doesn't help that the arena is constantly stuffed to the brim with hollows that would literally do anything to attack me at any fucking time. The pocket watch really comes in clutch here, as the increased stamina really helps with the constant onslaught of attacks. I mentioned that the dog is inconsistent when attacking the Mangler, which means that it isn't impossible. But landing that hit not only requires god-tier positioning from the player, but also from the goddamn AI dog. The trick is to wait for the Mangler to do their rolling attack. When this happens, you can lure them into crashing into a wall, stunning the boss. If luck should allow, the dog will get some hits in, but your main focus should be survivability. Healing can only last you so long. Mender's aura does charge, but it charges very slow, so realistically, healing can be infinite, but it's quite limited. When the Mangler reaches their second phase, it will grow immensely in size, effectively taking away the problem of constant whiffs, making the rest of the boss a cakewalk compared to the first phase. Overall, this fight took me about 15 minutes to beat, and by God, it won't be the last long boss fight. However, we do get a very, very helpful and special mod from this boss fight. Introducing Plimbus and Gaxter, the Hollow Legion. How can you tell them apart? Well, we don't try to. I mean, it's a coin flip. Just get lucky. Now, we have 3 little critters that can deal damage on our behalf. An immense upgrade, making the Mangler boss fight well worth the patience it takes to complete it. In addition, at Ward 13, we upgrade our Dragon's Heart and the rest of our gear, and set off once again with our new Legion in tow. These little guys aren't perfect. They deal less damage than the dog on their own, and still struggle to hit some enemies. In addition, their cast time leaves a lot to be desired, only having time to charge one cast of the Legion before the other vaporizes from this point of existence. But, beggars can't be choosers. I mean, it's better than Rattleweave. So we hit more dungeons, take on strong enemies, run away from some more enemies, and grab more loot, until we reach Land's End. In Land's End, we find 2 women named Liz, fighting for their lives. Joining the fray, they beat back the onslaught, while I attempt to get every enemy to fire at me at the same time to see what happens. Protecting both Liz and Liz gives us a very special goodie, the Chicago typewriter. In a pacifist run, this should be useless, and technically it is. But now we have the incredible ability to cosplay as a gangster.
Slammed my fucking balls on a closing door.
So we continue onwards until we reach the first true wall of the run. The first boss we encounter where we really have to get creative to take them down. In the depths of the choking hollow, we encounter the Ent. The Ent is a massive boss who attacks frequently with shockwaves and swipes, ensuring that any summon we bring out won't live very long. Its health pool is massive, and it has no shortages of ways to cut down our only means of damage. The biggest trouble, however, comes from how the Ent is able to break the pathfinding of the dog and the Legion. This is another one of my theories, but I believe that the target that my summons attempt to reach is in the center of the Ent, which, due to the boss's size, registers to my minions as airborne and out of reach. This makes them unable to traverse the arena and unable to attack the Ent consistently. Couple that with the damage the Ent puts out, and you can see why the dog and the Legion are all but ineffective against this boss. We do have one more option though. The Ent passively spawns root boards, whose explosions deal a tiny amount of damage to the boss. In theory, it is possible to defeat the Ent this way, but there's no way we can last that long with limited healing. This means that we can't beat the Ent right now, but that just means that we need some more tools to perfect the build. and I know exactly how to do it.
I still don't understand what exactly it is we're doing here, but
Okay,
I'm supporting my friend, and that's all that matters.
So here's what's gonna happen. I need a thing in the game to access a secret boss, okay? And to do that, you need to kill a different boss in a randomized temple or dungeon in a completely, like, not in a completely, but in a specific way where you deal headshots and then cause friendly fire, essentially, between the boss and another one of the enemies in the arena. And you get something called the control rod. That's what I need. So what we're doing here is one of you guys is going to host, okay? Then I'm going to hop in with you guys. We're gonna get the control rod. Then I'm gonna switch to my pacifist, find the secret boss. I'm going to kill the secret boss as a pacifist, and I'm going to get Iron Sentinel. To articulate this plan in a way that makes more sense, we need to kill a boss to gain access to an important secret boss with a new summon that can kill the end. But to get the key we need to shoot and we need to kill. So again, I'm offshoring my need for violence to others. I've enlisted my friends, Exertine and thiccnicc, as well as a non-pacifist character of mine to collect this key on the pacifist's behalf. We venture out into the desert world of Rom in search of the Stalker's Den. This was a bit of a grind for us, but there were plenty of funny moments, so it was all worth it.
Hey, nerd alert, nerd alert.
Hey, why would
Sorry,
you say
sorry.
that?
No, sorry, that was fucked up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, look at the tears
Sorry.
gushing down my fucking face.
I'm having my fucking sad arc right now. You made me start listening to Tame Impala.
I'm going to fucking post a picture of Bart looking sad with the looking out the window and shit. And you guys are gonna be like, wow, that's so cool looking.
Close up. 1, 2. Okay. Now. 1,
You got
2.
it. You got it.
1.
You fucked it up.
Nick, you fucker!
Accidentally rolled.
Lee, we gotta laugh at the same time when Nick comes down the stairs, okay? Okay.
Man, what is some citrus? Oh, fuck, hold on. Golly, what a suspicious. What a suspicious little hole. What a suspicious little hole in the ground.
Okay, wait. No.
Are we a good team?
No, not in the slightest.
Done.
Hi, you whore.
Bada bing, bada bang.
Wait, everyone come here, everyone come here.
What?
Wait, guys, look. Wait, is it down or? Wait, hold on.
Spat on the
Hold on.
ass.
Guys, look, it's Stick Bridge. It's Stick Bridge. Everyone, say hi to Son Goku. He's one of my friends from college.
Kill issue?
Yeah.
Wonley, I thought you liked Souls likes. Come on, I thought you liked Souls likes.
Likes. I also hate Elden Ring and I hate
You.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. Woo! Good one, Lee. Yeah.
See, even my character enjoyed that joke.
Oh shit, I'm taking a lot of damage. Many people do not have one home. One home.
Many people do not have one shift of boyfriend. Okay, that's true.
The
Well, I need a home.
1%
I need a...
owns 98% of all the wolf shifter boyfriends.
They go feral, and you know what happens next? I don't even
And
need
you
to
know,
fucking say it.
you know who has to pay the price?
It's the Republican America.
The working class has
The
to pay the
working
price.
class
for all the
has to
wolf
clean up
shifter
all those
boyfriends.
ripped up sheets.
You go feral.
Every
yeah.
time
For
a wolf
all the
shifter-
demon princesses that
every
get
time,
summoned.
okay, every time a
Make
wolf
it
shifter goes feral, okay? You have to understand, every time a wolf shifter... After a grind, we find the Stalker's Den, and start the fight with the Houndmaster and his pet Maul. After plastering the Houndmaster's face with lead, his beloved dogs turn on him and eat him alive. And so, finishing up the fight, we get the control rod. After switching to my pacifist, my friends agreed to keep their violence out of her sight. We venture to the Wasteland Traders camp, where there's an inactive construct outside. Upon placing the control rod in the construct, it comes to life and tries to kill us. However, the combined effort of 3 different dogs makes the fight an absolute cakewalk. This means that my pacifist now has the summon Iron Sentinel, 2 remote turrets that shoot consistent streams of bullets at the nearest enemy. It is our first means of ranged damage. Shout out again to thiccnicc and exertine for helping me out with this run. I probably couldn't do it without them. But that means we are now able to take on the Ent. For real this time, you twiggy bastard. With Iron Sentinel, this fight is still pretty scuffed. The Ent is addicted to killing my summons with his shockwaves, and it doesn't help that Iron Sentinel has a slow charge compared to the dog. But anything helps. Honestly, Iron Sentinel makes this boss even possible, which explains the grind. So now we wait for slow casts, and chip down the Ent's health, evading everything it can throw at us. I still died once because I got caught off guard by my turrets cutting the boss in half. I don't know. I just never seen that before. I've been playing this game for a while. And with a fair second attempt, we finally defeat the Ent. And to be clear, the pathfinding issue still exists on the other world boss of Earth, Singe. So even if we re-rolled the campaign, we'd still have to grind for Iron Sentinel. Just thought I'd mention. We press even further onwards into the city when we discover the tower. In the tower, we meet the Keeper, who takes us on a short labyrinth interlude before we enter Rom proper. Rom is a desert planet, jutting with the ruins of an ancient hyper-intelligent civilization that survived near extinction at the hands of the Root by destroying everything they had and playing dead. Here we seek the undying king Eslan, ruler of Rom and possible associate of Root Killer Ford. Admittedly, this character is not unfamiliar with Rom. They have been here before, taking on a few bosses, mostly for the grind, so we have a few strategies and familiarity with Rom's assortment of impalers, dogs, shaman, and berserkers. One very important thing to mention is that in Rom we gain some very neat equipment. One such example being the Burden of the Reckless, a ring that takes away your ability to use the Dragonheart, but in return regens health for every perfect dodge. Very situational, but a godsend nonetheless. Still, we are using Aggressor's Bane, as well as the Loop of Prosperity to boost our yield of upgrade materials, and finally, we are using the Mender's Charm to boost our healing. So now, we stomp around Rom, acquiring more irrelevant gear, and sprinting through each dungeon. When we push through the end of the Iron Rift, we come across our next boss, Scourge. Ah, Scourge, a high-tier Warrior Cats reference and a terrible boss in Remnant. Scourge shambles across the battlefield with ultra-wide telegraph swipes and spewing green radiation orbs in retaliation with every attack we connect. Scourge is accompanied by an entourage of 2 ghasts, slow-moving enemies that explode on death, and when one dies, another instantly comes to take its place. It may not seem that awful yet, but it's when this boss pulls out all the stops that it really gets bad. After losing a quarter of its health, Scourge begins to perform an AoE attack that makes them invulnerable for a short time, cloaked in a waft of radiation and shooting lots of projectiles at the player. The problem here is that the AoE, without fail, insta-kills the dog and the Legion. They cannot handle the damage this Twister picks up as melee summons. Furthermore, Iron Sentinel is countered by Scourge's projectiles, which close in on whatever is attacking the boss. Whenever this attack comes out, my summons are simply gone, and I must recharge them in order to deal damage. Strat here is training around the arena, waiting on charges, and timing casts as soon as the AoE finishes to maximize damage. It doesn't change the fact that this boss epitomizes slog. In fact, it goes on for so long that I choose to switch to the Burden of the Reckless to have healing when I was low on Dragon Hearts. This boss took me about 20 minutes of non-stop play, and I didn't beat it on my first try. By far, one of the most agonizing bosses of the run, and I'm thankful that I never have to do it again. Right? Either way, we hit Ron's overworld again. I feel I should mention that this world is the first time in the run where we encounter exclusively airborne enemies in these floating skulls. Without a ranged summon, my strategy to take them out is to corral them into a low doorway, bringing them low enough to where my summons can hit them. They're not the only flying enemy in this run, and I think it's important to outline my strategy for these foes. We upgrade some more and hit the next dungeon. What is it? Oh, the burrows. That means we'll be seeing an old friend soon. An old friend from, 15 minutes ago? Rom's dungeons end up feeling very samey. Not much to talk about other than skulls and hives, which aren't an issue when you play around the level design. Just run forward and eventually you'll get to the end. Speaking of the end, we once again find ourselves in the Stalker's Den with the Houndmaster. Fun fact, there are actually a few bosses in Remnant that you can get past without fighting, like a real pacifist, and this is one of them. So we can just walk by without disturbing the pack and everything will be fine. But for good measure, I tried to strike up a charming conversation with the Houndmaster and accidentally, on purpose, started the boss fight. Maul is not a terrible fight. Keeping up with the boss's minions while dealing damage requires some finesse. But even without said finesse, it's not an ordeal to whittle down this boss until it's finished. But I think this makes me the most violent pacifist ever. I wonder if my methods are unethical and counterproductive to my ideology. Mic change. Anyway, what's next? More useless gear in the Wastelander's Flail. We got it after being cursed by the Citadel with the Citadel's Curse. Just another run through some hallways with some minor health management. After another small overworld interlude, we come across something quite anomalous, however. A dungeon without a name. Very spooky, but I promise you, there's no dead girlfriends possessing my copy of the game. Anyway, despite the fact that this dungeon seems like it shouldn't exist, it is still built to standard. OSHA would be proud. Really, though, I can only say so much about Rom's dungeons and enemies without sounding terribly repetitive, so let's just skip ahead. We make it through, and come across this bunker. Within this corroded ruin is the hardest boss we've had to face yet. The Harrow is a beast of pure violence and animalistic rage, symbolizing the swan dive Rom went through during their war with the Root. Not much is left of them but vile, flailing husks, impaled with the rusted weaponry of a time long past. But also, meet the motherfucking Legion! The Harrow is tricky. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, but the danger it poses to both us and our summons is counteracted by very exploitable AI. Things get a little more tricky, however, when this monster decides to crawl around in the fucking walls. This brings out the Harrow's posse of lurkers. The horde of ads, on top of the wide attacks of the boss, make for a very difficult time. One where I was very dependent on Burden of the Reckless to stay alive. Like many things in life, however, one of the best solutions is to simply back away slowly and dodge at regular intervals. The enemies and the boss will slowly crowd until they are in range to attack, so it's best to keep them at a moderate distance rather than simply run away. Once all the ads were defeated, I switched to Iron Sentinel and trained the Harrow around the center part of the arena until the monster finally collapsed. With that, we acquire the Howling Key, and finally gain access to the largest apartment complex in Rom, wherein we find the Undying King.
You have come a long, difficult way, if the whispers are true. So, traveler, what do you believe brings you here?
Ugh. Another day, another ancient deity telling me to fuck off somewhere else. The Undying King knows where Ford is, and can feasibly end our quest with his help. But goddamn barter economies, we gotta do something for him first. He wants us to go to the goddamn swamp. Why? To rip out the heart of some other ancient deity. I don't know. But we gotta do it, I guess. And if Exertine yells at me loud enough, I'll make part 2, where we will explore the swamps of courses, on behalf of this bitch. See ya.